Thank you. Go back and review that first part. Okay. Okay, so this is, again, centralized or RPA enterprise approach. Do I have someone on the line? I think maybe I'm hearing someone on the line. Is anyone here logged in and not muted? Getting just a very slight feedback. No? Okay. So I mentioned the enterprise RPA approach, centralized control, modern enterprises employing, a wide array of business software, and really looking at then not just processes across the organization that are human tasks, but what applications can be better integrated together. So it may be things that you're not even doing today, or maybe it is manual, but you need to better integrate those applications. If you have somebody taking data from one application, entering it into another, obviously that's a great exercise for RPA. Maybe not a lot of organizations doing that, but certainly some may be. I will mention also in that case that you may have digital documents or even paper documents that get scanned where you can use intelligent processing. So Help Systems also has an add-on tool that allows you to, that's got machine learning that will identify data in documents that are not precisely exactly the same all the time. And so that's a very helpful tool for particularly high volume tasks. Of course, maximizing ROI is very important. So picking, particularly starting in your organization, you're going to want to pick first a task that, you want to do the most difficult task starting out, but you also want to make sure that there's a good ROI. And what we've seen is RPA does bring pretty fast ROI to most of these tasks, particularly the ones that are simple and repetitive, because easier to build.
Rob McBride, if Rob could.
Hey, Rob, can you mute? I'm sorry. You're hearing you there. Thanks. All right.
Can you might have
I can.
For us?
I have to find that.
Bring up the participant.
Is that up here? Yeah, it's like clear.
I think it is that other window. Click on the row of 9 boxes.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Maybe it's there. There's usually an option. I saw it earlier for.
If you just click on Rob, you can.
Oh, here, maybe this is it. There's a mute all option. Yeah. Let's see. Okay, so as it says here, while every organization would love to kind of snap your fingers and you've got a lot of automation and you're fully implemented, obviously as you build larger processes, will take time, and you want to build them in a way that are, you want to make sure you have error handling, want notification kind of information coming out. We have a little bit of that here. I've got a couple of levels of notification. We'll look at an API, and we'll also, we use an email that comes out of the process. So we'll look at those. I talked about this before, like I said, at least 3 levels, right? Kind of that personal level desktop, and then kind of the maybe departmental process automation, and then, more the enterprise style. This is kind of a larger view of possibility for automation. So you've got the robotic process automation. I mentioned intelligent document processing. Some of our customers also are looking for workload automation, scheduler kinds of functionality. I know at least one scheduler tool maybe was bought over the last few years and got much more expensive. We'd had some customers work with us to buy a Help Systems tool that was much more cost effective. And then, of course, you got secure file transfer and some capacity management, a number of different types of applications here that can really help make things more efficient. So let's talk a little bit about Automate. Specifically, I mentioned the step recorder. That's a new functionality that came out in 11.5 and was enhanced in 11.6. We're going to talk about business process automation there, and also, workflow, triggering processes. We're not going to do triggers specifically today, but there's a little more sophistication in that, but are very helpful. That can be a number of things, right? We do have kind of like a trigger in that I have a file showing up and starting a process. So you can see here, there are some capabilities to use OCR or PDFs, machine learning built in, API integration. We do have that, and we're looking at that today. Cloud native actions. There's certainly AWS and Azure functionality in the tool. And then native integrations, looking at how do you integrate native applications, and then, of course, all the control logic that you may need. And then, I mentioned the machine learning, document classification, extraction of that data. It's common data in uncommon places is the way they put it. So if it's not, training a basic bot to find data in different places is not something that you can do really well. But with the machine learning, it will figure it out and be able to do it very accurately. So the 11.6 release we're going to work with has some additional REST API functionality. They've upgraded the SQL version they're using there. Some more terminal actions, file actions, XML, web browser actions. We'll be using a web browser today. And then, of course, like I said, the Automate recorder. This is what the Automate recorder looks like. This was not in the tool previously that I had used, actually. And so this goes a long way toward kind of giving you a very quick and easy way to do some automation. It doesn't encompass nearly all the functionality, but it gives you a very nice starting framework. You can kind of train all the clicks that you need to do and the entries even, and then you can go in and actually, the nice thing is you can edit this. Once you save it, you can go back to the task editor and manipulate that information. And then you can still go back here to the recorder and edit the recording. So all those, it's very nicely integrated. Citizen, developer, power user. Yeah, there you go. You can move between the task builder and the new recorder. Good. So we're also, I mentioned earlier, going to talk about the bot store, and I'm going to bring that up in a little bit. You got Excel, Microsoft Office, FTP, for all of us that are IBM focused, they've got a remote command feature that's really nice. They'd also have solution bots. So if you're in a particular vertical, one of the verticals they're very focused on is financial services, and particularly loans and mortgages. So that's an area where the intelligent automation has been very successful. And so they have some of those they've built. Most of these are all free. A few of them are paid additions that actually need usually customization for your environment. So, but they're all out there to look at and see what's available. Okay, so you you have a link. You should have a link to your virtual machine. And I'm going to apologize. I actually put the wrong login here. The login is in your email. And if you haven't already logged in, go ahead and do that. And in the meantime, we'll take a look at some other things. So this admin password is your login for Automate. And we'll go into that in a moment. And I'll show you how to get logged in there. Still some more people. New people. Oh, great. All right, Harmony. Okay, how many we got? 14. Okay, I have one more. Should have had a few more. I've got one more VM, so hopefully everybody is able to work here.
I want to ask if
there's a problem with French
Yeah, the French
participants didn't get the link. I guess it's different translation.
Okay.
So,
I'm not sure why they wouldn't have gotten it. So if there was an email there, which they should have received it. Check, I guess if you have not received the link, definitely check your junk mail or any spam folders that you may have. Is there a reason why they wouldn't have gotten it?
Yeah, I think it's like a French version. So I guess the email you edited is the English version, and then they don't get that.
Oh, really? I did not realize that.
I had that yesterday.
Yeah, go ahead. Maybe you can.
Yeah.
Good point. Let me do that. You want to do it? Okay. Kyoshi's going to help me. So he's going to put the information with the link in the chat. So the nice thing about this link is it's the same for everyone. There it is. And once you click on that, it will come up, and it'll ask you to log in to your Microsoft account. So if you don't have a Microsoft account, you can create one. And so you'll have that login, and then you can go and it'll actually create your server, your VM, and then you will have to start it after it's created. Okay, let's jump out here to automate now. Okay, I'm gonna put my VM up here. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and show this for those of you that are ready. To open Automate, you may have already found it, but you're going to click your Start button and go down to your Automate Enterprise 11. And then you're going to click this Management Console. I already have mine open. So once you're there, I probably should as well. Here it is. So once you're there, it's going to come up and have a Connect To option. And you're going to probably have to select localhost and log in. And it'll pop up, and that's where you're going to just log in with administrator and then password, simple default.
I don't think I needed to. Seem to have been pre-entered.
Oh, really? Okay, cool. All right. So what I'm going to do here is we're in the workflows area. I'm going to create a new workflow. So I'm going to click new here. And I've turned off there is a wizard, and what you'll want to do is actually, the wizard is okay, I guess, but has a lot of complications in my opinion. I don't typically use it. And so I'm just going to go in here and say recorder. So I'm just going to do a little recorder example. So there's 3 levels of functionality, and this is the enterprise version. Or called Ultimate that we're looking at. So if you have a desktop, you actually won't have this functionality. You'll only have task level development availability to you. So you'll build one task at a time. It does not let you build workflows per se. But so in this case, since we're here in the Ultimate version, I'm going to open up and edit this workflow with the recorder that I called recorder, because we're going to look at the recorder functionality. So it's going to open up the workflow designer. Okay, and then we have this functionality over here: tasks, flow control, events, conditions, all these different options. And I'm just going to drag a task over here. I'm just going to build a task, nothing fancy. I'm going to call it recorder. Okay, and then I'm going to just double click that task. And then we're going to open up the task manager here. Task editor, I should say. Okay, so now we're in our recorder task, and we have, there's a lot of functionality over here. You can see it's a tree structure. At any time, you can go actually type in here and find any of the actions that you may want to do. I'm just going to click on these. I think there's like an expand all here. So real quickly, I'll just scroll through these. We're not going to look at all these now. We're going to focus on the recorder. But before we get in there, you know, you've got HTTP functions for API. You've got the Amazon, a few different Amazon options here with the number of particular actions you can take. Yep, more Amazon, S3. Yeah. So you can see a lot of Amazon capability. Then you've got Azure Storage. They're actually, I noticed in the roadmap, they're looking to add a lot more Azure functionality. They have not, I think they must have a lot of Amazon customers because they have a lot more capabilities there. You've got Twitter, and then you've got things like, data related ship here. So you've got data sets, there's conditions, labels. So there's Excel, file system. So all these different actions, JSON, multimedia. So we can go through all those later, and you can play around with those anytime you want as we get to the kind of the hands-on do your thing session. I'm just going to click on this recording option. And what happens is it pops up my recorder. So I have different options. So control typically is going to be used with a desktop application, something that's native desktop. Position is literally that. It's like set a position. Web, of course, is web. And so that's what I'm going to do today is I'm going to open up a web browser. I could have done it there. I'm going to go to web. And actually, I'm just going to do it here. I'm just going to use Google. Let me go ahead and close this. I should have used it here in the first place. Okay. Do save and open. So it's going to open up Google in the web. Okay. And you can see here, it does have different options. There we go. You do have different browser options. Internet Explorer is still in there, Chrome's in there, Edge, Firefox. I guess in this case, they don't use Internet Explorer. Internet Explorer is some of their legacy functionality, as it is for all of us, I think. Okay, so every time I want to take a new action, I just click on web again. And then I go take the action I want. So now I'm going to click there, and it's going to come back and create a new action. So now I've got to interact with web, input, and the default here comes up as get value. So, but what I really want to do is I want to set a value. So I'm just going to go here and say, I'm going to go to our website, okay? And then I'm just going to click on the play button to execute that. Now, it didn't go there yet because all I did is enter it, right? So the next step is to click here and then tell it oh no, I already clicked, okay. Let me run that one. Maybe that was what I needed to do here. Delete that step. Yep, that's my mouse too. Let's just try this real quick. Make sure that it works. Oh yeah, that's right. So I entered a search, so now I need to go click. So I've come back into my task editor, So I can go back anytime and re-edit, and it'll pop back up. Okay. Back. And what I intended to do here, actually, I'm going to change, is go into here and set a URL. There we go. Okay. Now click again and go to offerings. Actually, I think what I did here, let me go back. I used a position to just come to this position. And then we'll run it. And then we'll use the web to go in. And what I did before was just went down to this intelligent automation option. There we go. Single click. Okay, let's save that. And let's run. Okay, so I got the first piece, but it didn't catch the second one. So here's what you need to do in those situations. Typically what you'll find is, particularly when you use some kind of a position with a mouse, it happens pretty quick, but the next step executes before the cursor's settled in location. So it's not really there yet. So what I need to do in that case is I go down here and search for a weight. And I think, let's see, now I can use a web browser weight, I think. So let's drag that up. We just drag it up into the location. And then we're going to wait, say just 1 second. Okay, we have to check that session name. Yeah, web session 1. Okay. So now let's try it again. So, you know, this is kind of like building and debugging at the same time. This is very typical of the way you'll build these. And this takes a little time here, particularly because you're kind of in debug mode, right? You're not really executing this as a completed task. Okay, didn't get there. Go ahead and just try a mouse move. Okay. Okay, for a mouse move, what I'm going to need to do, to move this out of my way. Let me move it over here so I can see my screen when I'm working with it. When you use a mouse move, all you do is go, in this case, I'm hovered, but I already covered that in the first click. So I'm going to go down here and I just hover over that location and I'm going to use a insert option. And for me, I have to turn off my num lock. And it's going to capture the location. And so what happens is as I move my mouse there, you'll see down at the bottom of my input option, it'll show adjusted mouse position. And then once I hit the insert, it actually loads that into the XY coordinates for me. Okay, I'm going to save that. I've got a mouse click there. And for the moment, I'm just going to turn this one off. I can disable it rather than deleting it. Okay, let's run that again. All right, so that went really fast, so you couldn't see it, but it did get to that location on the page for intelligent automation. Okay, so if you have your Automate up and running, I would like you to, you don't have to do exactly what I did, but basically play around with the recorder. I'm going to give you about 20 minutes to kind of play around with the recorder functionality there, build something. Could be Google, maybe you've got another web page you want to play around with. Just let me know if you have questions about how to use the recorder. Let's see what chats. All right, hopefully everyone had some success building a recorded task there. Anybody want to share what they built, or did you run into problems? Just looking for the mute options here. Guess anybody can unmute and try talking if you want.
You might have to ask for a mute. You might have to ask for a mute. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. There we go. Jeremy, okay. Okay, no comments maybe? Okay, that's okay. All right, let's move on. I would encourage you to play around with it. So I think, I'll just mention that we're gonna leave these VMs up for a week. So if you wanna play with them, over that time, feel free, be glad to have you do that. All right, so I think I've saved that. I'm gonna go ahead and shut that down. I got Task Builder open here, I guess. Yeah, there we go. Close that first. So it does make you back out, the kind of the same way you got in. So obviously you have one of those lower level pieces open, it's going to make you close it. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my workflows, and I'm going to go to this business process automation. And I'm going to open that up. So once I select it, I need to double click it to open it up. And so what you see here now is I have a small workflow, pretty simple. You'll see there's some, good number of steps in, at least the first one here. So what this is doing, if you were, I think maybe one or two of you were in the Monday session where I talked about this, where it was a single task. This is a workflow that is opening up a Plex application in a web browser, and then opening up Excel, reading some data, and writing that data into the application. And then from there, once that completes, we write through an API to a Trello card. And then if there's success, we're going to send an email. There's a task here with an email in it to send an email saying that it was successful. If not, it failed, and that's a similar email will get sent with failure. So let's open up the first task. We'll dig into that and look at how that's built. Okay, so I would encourage you to play around and look at these different actions within this task. And you will see I've been working on this task and played around with it for quite a while. So there's a lot of pieces in here that have been disabled and different things, but you can ignore that. So the first thing we do is actually open a URL. Now this is an action, right? This was not a recorded action. So it's a regular action from the actions list over here. And then we maximize the window. We're going to set the text to enter the user ID and password. It's just simple SA in this case. And then we're going to click to begin browsing on the menu options to see this run. I'm going to go ahead and run this task just so you can see it from this top level workflow. Oh, I'm sorry. I did forget something. I've got to start some stuff up here. Okay, so this is good. We learned something here. Let's go to the Z drive. I'm going to go in here to Tomcat and bin, and where this is actually in your, there's a notepad on your desktop there. I put this in there. And double click startup. So we start up Tomcat.
Which drive?
C drive. It's right there in the C drive. You've got Tomcat. I think it's at the top. And then go to bin directory and then just down to the startup.bat file. Okay. Okay. That should fix our issue. So we'll run again. So stepping through the sidebar menus, getting to a main person's menu here, and then it's going to go here and open up Excel, unless we get an error. Nope, there's Excel. Okay. Oh, yeah. So this happened before too. So we've got to just click next on this. So it failed again. Our Excel version has to get approved to be used. So since it went through and failed, just let me show you a couple things. So first off, I got an email. So here's an RPA email telling me, this is from the email, telling me that it failed. Okay, and then I've got another one here. So here's my Trello board, and you can see I've got a number of these, but I also have a Trello card that got generated. I haven't changed this. I guess I didn't think about that. I didn't change this to say failed. I need to do that. That would be the way to improve this, to add the failed text here. But it is generating and using an API. We'll look at that in just a little while. All right. Looks like I've got a task run here. Oh, I know what I've got. And I've got a pop-up. So once it completes, it actually generates this dialog. So I have to acknowledge that for it to close. Okay. All right, let's try one more time. Hopefully that Excel license issue doesn't pop up. There we go. So now we're into editing this person data, and it's going to generate the entries, adjust them. Interesting, that birthday, when I entered that, it came up with a default bunch of zeros, and I actually had to click on that and use some delete keys. You'll see a sequence of deletes and backspaces that I used just to kind of use a couple different things to edit that. I noticed actually when I was playing around with Internet Explorer, it didn't populate that. It must be something about Chrome that did that. So
Internet Explorer, not Edge.
yeah, I didn't have Edge on here, so Internet Explorer didn't run with everything, but I did see that part.
I know in the WinC you can just type over the zeros.
I thought I did that in the past, but it didn't work. So,
But that was
okay, so we finished that step. It's now running the API to Trello. That's finished. Now you see the check mark, and now it's doing the success. Okay, it sent the email, and now we've got the success dialog. There we go. Okay, so that's what you have in the application there. Now let's drill down into that first task. We'll open that back up, and we'll just walk through it together. So as I mentioned here, we're logging or getting the URL up, logging in. We're clicking through the first few steps in order to, and these are browser clicks. So these are clicking on that sidebar area and identifying the specific menu options. Then we drop down into, well, I actually create an array for this data. And then we open up Excel and read that data into that array. And then we begin a looping process. So this is some of the control flow you can work with. We've got a loop here that loops through for each of those options of data. And I'm basically just using a simple move mouse click. I did have to focus the window in this case, and then wait, move mouse, click. And then, so the first one here is actually clicking that add button. And then we get into the sequence of clicking on the entry areas. And you can see here the keystrokes going into using the array to input the keystrokes for the data that was read from Excel. And that basically loops through all the cell entries. And then you can see here's my keystrokes for backspacing and deleting to clear out. I could have done it, I'm sure, with one, but I kind of clicked in the middle. So I used both the backspace and deletes, and then the entries. And then there's a kind of a final entry to get us to tab through the end of the process and back to the main menu. Okay, let's open up the API. Okay, the API is pretty short here. So we do create another set of variables and get all the data and the API information we need here set. And then it's just one command. It's an HTTP post, and it posts all the API information and out to gets a return code and completes the process.
Blocks the cookies.
Sorry?
And blocks the cookies.
Yes. Okay. So this is where I would edit this and actually pass in whether it passed or failed. You know, that would be a nice addition. Take a quick look at the email. It's very short also. Yeah, just 2 lines, right? So close that. So we've got the send email option. Now this is a Gmail account, and I will tell you, if you work with a Gmail account, I did have to really work on the security aspects And there were kind of a couple levels that I had to open up. And I forget what it's called, less secure app, I think. There's a setting kind of deep in the Google Gmail settings that you have to click on and allow a less secure app, it said, and that enabled everything to work. And then I just have this display action that is outputting a success message. So just a simple proposal here for a first step. I would propose that you go in here and change the to, put your own email address in there so you get the email, and then save that and try running from the top level. And make sure you've started Tomcat as we looked. You have to go to the C drive, to the Tomcat directory, to the bin directory, and then run the startup.bat. And also, the first time you run Excel, you can do it manually if you want. It'll pop up and ask you to get a license, and all you should have to do is just kind of click next a couple times, and it'll clear that. Then it will run through for you. So let me know if that runs through. It's like I have a message on chat. You have to click on a specific location, or can you have it select a named object from the DOM? So the answer is, let me go here. The answer is yes. And I will tell you this, I built some of this pretty late here, so I didn't spend a lot of time. So if I go back to the top here, I had a lot of success at selecting the sidebar functionality for Plex. That had no problem selecting those. You can see these are actually web actions, and these are selecting the objects from the sidebar. When I got into the main page, and actually you'll see that I have some of those clicks in here for the main page, and I did have that working at one point, and I had some trouble with it. And so with just short on time, I didn't bother spending more time on it and use the click or the mouse move and the click, which I understand. And I probably would really agree with you that that's not the ideal way, because it is going to be dependent on precise location. If you change screens, resolutions, you're going to have issues. So you really do want, ideally, a single click. I will also tell you that normally I would use the move and click. If I can't get the single click browser object to work, there's actually a really nice feature in here. It takes a little bit more effort, but it's called a needle in a haystack. And basically I can do a snip of a small section of graphics on the screen and put that in as the thing I'm looking for, and it will precisely select that location on the screen and give me really functionally what you get from using the object selection. So I've used that a number of times on some other tasks. So yeah, run through and play with that, run it, send your email to yourself, and let me know if that works. So if each of you would do that and let me know, if you give me a thumbs up or a yes in the chat if that works for you. I'm going to give you, 5 minutes, let's say, just to run through it and play with it. Look at some of the different tasks in there.
So this is how you got to drill down. So I got the workflow with the branches and everything. But
so you're going to click on the task that you want to drill down.
Yeah.
So let me go here. So Andrew just asked a question, and it's a good question. I probably did it too quickly. So let me go back to the main window. And so if I'm in this workflow view, Andrew asked, how did I get into the task editor, I think, basically. So the way to do that is to click on the task, and then when you get that little cross, double click. And it takes a second. It's a little slow coming up. But once you double click, it'll kind of begin to come up on a new window with the Automate task editor. Yeah.
I also, is that because there were just 3 rows?
Yes, it is. It was precise, and so it's not flexible that way. You're right.
Because remember, the test tool I saw could open up the Excel as a data source and just.
And that is what it does. It's really that I didn't spend the time to use that information determine how many rows I had. I just forced it to 3. Yes. Okay. But yeah, that wouldn't be the ideal either. You'd want to read the data out of the rows, and then you would know how many you had.
Because a lot of times it might be end of month, might be
100, could be hundreds, might be 2,000 even, right?
Yep. I also saw that we had a 3-dimensional array with 3-item array while sending the Trello notice. There was a bit of puzzle on that one.
I don't remember where that comes from. That one's a little older, so I'd have to look at that and see. It's possible it's a leftover piece that I created and did delete. I don't know.
So there was some magic.
Okay, here we go. We said, do you have to click on a specific location? Okay, yes, that one. Email can be sent via Google Gmail API as well. Oh, that's Kiyoshi. If mail provider has API offer. Yes, good point. Yeah, you could use the API to send it. Right. And actually, they've got Google bots. Actually, I didn't go there, so I need to go back there to the Google bots, or excuse me, to the help system bots. And we'll look at those. They actually have several Google bots, and one of those is Gmail.
Actually, it looked as if you're doing email slightly differently on the failure versus success.
Am I?
Well, when I went to change the address on one of them, I got the full smtp.gmail.com. I think when I went to change the address on the success, it was a much simpler window.
Oh, you know, that's interesting. So I'll just say I had some issues late yesterday. So I was working on this last night. And I actually set up a system email settings. And so that's still in there. So once I solved the security issues, that probably started working. I never went back and changed the failure. So it just has a simple email card, and it uses the system settings for that one, I'm sure. Yeah, rather than the specific SMTP. So there's different kinds of emails. There's a send a one message, which is what the success option is using. And then as you're saying, I can actually set up an email and open it, and then I can close the emails options later if I want. But so yeah.
So good point. Change the address. It's going sloppy. Change them both.
Yes.
Why isn't that also different?
Well, I wanted you to see there were 2 different options. That's what it was. How about that? How are we doing on time there?
10:20, I think.
Okay, on chat, are you having success? Let me know if you've gotten it to execute through to success and you've maybe gotten an email to your own account. I guess I can check my account, see if I'm going to run it. The earlier email. Yeah, my account's obviously Eastern time, so looks like 11:17. That's probably my last one. Yeah.
So kind of Excel, I kind of see the CSV.
Right. Yeah, it is saying the CSV there, right?
So what kind of document?
Sorry.
What kind of document is that?
And that's Tinker. I'll go over here. So Kiyoshi just asked or mentioned that Excel file is actually a CSV, which is fine. The task that I'm running is actually an Excel task. So if we look at that task, up here, you can see it says get text. You've got an Excel icon, right? Get text contained in Excel and populate data. It didn't need to be a CSV. I'm sure it could have been an XLS X. I didn't try it that way. I just had a CSV, so I used it. So you can see there it's pretty simple. Once you drag and drop these, basically this window opens and you just fill in the different options here for what is needed. And you have different options for, and I said save on completion, get the range of cells in this case. And I use that variable array we created, person data. And where do I start? Cell A1. I mean, it's very straightforward to build this and complete the process. Let's look through a few of these other items. Let's look at this option. So when you're looking for a web location, it's actually pretty easy, I would say. Let's, I don't have it open here. I'll go ahead and just use an open window. I won't save it. So what you do, and here's a web browser, just web browser select location. And so all I'm going to do in here, go in, if I get in here, I can just click select. I'm sorry, I need to hold it. There we go. Hold select, and then you see the green around that web window. That tells you that you've got an active object that you can select. And in this case, it's only looking for a window, so that's what you want. And I click that. Okay, so I have to start it from automate for that to be acceptable. So I would need to go back and run that task. That's okay. And then the next thing I do after I have selected that window is I actually click on this, and then I click on the precise object that I want to select. So let's go ahead and let me do this. I'm going to restart this so we have a URL open. In fact, I'm just going to show you how to do a little debug session. So I'm going to do a wait on, I'm going to do a breakpoint on the wait. Okay, so you see the red dot there. It's going to do a breakpoint. I'm going to start this up. Now I'm running in task mode, right? I ran it from the workflow designer. Now I'm running just inside this task. And this is the way I would debug and work through building the task. Okay, so it opened the window and it got to the wait task. In this case, I'm just going to stop this because what I want to do is use that window then to set my location. And in this case, I believe my selection is on that sidebar. So I'm just looking to select, and it's a little light. Hopefully, you can see it at least on the screen here. The green box around the entire window is what I want. So it's identifying it. It's a Java, Plex Java app. It's got the local host URL and everything. Then I go to the click, and I'm going to go to the particular item that I want. I'm going to release, and I just want the blue. And then it comes back. And did I get it? I didn't get it. Well, I got a div. Yeah, I did. Okay, so it doesn't always populate everything. It tries to populate the most efficient part of the definition for the object that it can use. And let's see if there's anything more here. Yeah, so there's a restrict to specific match that it needed to use. So it found an object where there are 11, it says, and it restricted it to the 5th item in the list because that was the most efficient way. Sometimes you'll get locate by identifier, locate by name selected here. In this case, it's division, class, and then an actual match on the element number, kind of the count. Okay, I'm going to cancel that, keep what I had. Let's look at more here. I already looked at the move. So let's look at the send keystrokes. This is a really simple item, of course. In this case, if I click in here, you can see, so I would go create variables, and I would do that actually down here. Or I can do it explicitly as a create variable action. You can do it either way. So if I want to just in this task, I do it as an action inside the task. If I want it to be used across these things, I would actually set the variables down here. And then you've actually got some larger global variables, which you can set in another location. In this case, I created the variable there and I placed it here, but you got the % sign over here. If I click on that, it brings up all my variable lists and I can just click and select and add the one that I want. So I've got this item called person data, and it's a particular part of the array. So .f in this case. And so it's going to place that data as keystrokes. What's that? I didn't hear. Column. Yeah, it's a two-dimensional array. Yeah.
But that was first name, not column.
Oh, no, you're right. Yes, this F is not column. Yes, this is actually a position of the array.
If you look at it, can you bring up your variables once more, please?
Yep. Click.
You see he's got person
data.
I was going to say there's person data dot F and G and M, was it? I don't think they're the columns. I think they're the...
Yeah, it's A through F. Sorry, now that I'm thinking about it, it's been a while since I built that one. It is columns. Thank you. It is columns. It is columns. So if we open the Excel, we get that Excel file opened up. We can look at that. So if you want to look at the Excel file, it's actually under users, public documents, and then there's a number of folders down here. Demo input file, and then I've actually got a 2E, C++, and a Java version. So here's the person's input. And so Kiyoshi's asking is that the column? It was the column. I had forgotten. So it's working through sequentially through columns A through I to enter the data. And as Jeremy said, there are 3 rows, and I did limit that loop to 3. So I didn't really make it flexible yet to handle, any variable number of rows.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, let's go see what else is useful. Okay, let's drop into the next task, Trello Task. So you can see here, as I mentioned earlier, I created variables right here as actions within the task in this case. And then I have some set variables to actually set the values. And then I've got my HTTP post option, and you're going to send the URL directly with the information in it for the API. It's got the information here for the fields, return code. There's credential information here. So this is like a personal email account I created. And then most of these entries have an advanced option too, and they have different kinds of entries for the advanced. This one's got a number of different protocol pieces for it. You can also see, I use post, but in the API you've got all the different options you'll need. You've got to get, put, patch, delete, all the different options you'll want there. I should also mention that you've got error information in every task. And you can look at different causes of information and select them. And then on error, you can tell it what to do based on the error. So on error, I can execute certain actions for those errors. And these are actually really important to having, knowing that your task is running once you, especially if it's a task that's running on its own and you're not paying attention to it normally. You want to get an email success, or you want to get a failure, or maybe you want to know specifically what task. We did in fact, if you want to check it, we did a session. I think it was either a webinar or it might have been this session last year, where one of the guys from Help Systems did a really nice presentation on logging and error handling. There's a piece in there for that. Okay. I think I already showed you. Maybe I'll just go ahead and show you. Jeremy mentioned the difference between my email options or the ones I sent. So this is the success email. And if I open it up, I've got an action here. So this is a single email option. Oh, actually, no, it's reversed from what I was thinking. Okay, so here's the success message that's using the system option. The system option is where I went into the properties of the system and I actually set up the default email and set up the SMTP and everything needed there. And I had done that early on. And so I'm just sending that direct message with a subject only there for success. Okay. So if I go to the failure, yeah, I use the host option, which basically means I want to send one message and close the email out. And so I use host, and I have to set up all the SMTP parameters here, account information, user ID and password, and then I can enter the message down here. So I have all the information in one email. And let me open it one more time. I also have there's also a session option. So I can create the session email and just use it within the session and keep it open and close it. So I have system, single message host, and session. Okay, display the message. Actually, that's a really simple function. Just bring up a dialogue and it's got a message text there. I can also, I set the button type. It's got okay and different options there. Advanced, let's see what this advanced is. Center of screen. Okay, where does it position? Is there an icon we want in there? Yeah, there we go. Maybe I'll change that to exclamation. Save that. Okay, well, I'm going to just run that through again. Any questions about any of those types of actions? Nope. Yes?
So these interactions then probably making some kind of logging or tracing information on site, and if you have variables to send that.
You can, yes, you can absolutely do that, yes. Kyoshi just asked about each task having logging or trace information, and the answer there is yes, you can pick up that information. And of course, I can actually show it to you here in the bottom window. Once this is finished, I'll take a look. After we talk about that, I'll go back to the bot store and we'll talk about the available bots also. Like I lost my location. Must have had this already open. That's what happened. I already had the window open. It wasn't in the right place. So, it walked through the process. So you can see I don't have a lot of real error handling in the process. So the process has to fail overall or I don't get the error. But you can see here, I've got the success option. So the Next thing I want to talk about is the bot store. Okay, so this is the Help Systems bot store, and you can see here lots of different options for bots, and they actually have a pretty nice UI built in here where you can select, do I want just connector bots, solution bots, or digital coworker bots? I've got the recently added selected there. You can click the free or premium. Is it recently added? And then you've got the different application types. So if I want Active Directory, I just click that and I get those. So I don't have to search through that list. So feel free to go to that page, look through that list. They're downloadable. If you want to try one of them, in fact, I would suggest you do that. Find a bot that you'd like to try out. You actually select it and you actually kind of buy it. You go through a purchase process for the, free one's free, and then it pops up a download. You can download it. And you can just, once you have that, it'll download to any location. You can just create a workflow and drag it into the workflow and drop it, and it will just go right in. Okay, and then you can look through and see how that works.
Do you know what underlying language this is based on? Is it Python or?
I actually don't know. No. The question was, do I know what language Automate is built on? I don't know that. No. So there's Jira Cloud. Jira, that could be a really helpful, handy one. Of course, you got Microsoft, the Office, SQL Server. There's a Teams. My memory is that's like basically, execution result notifications. You can get some notifications and send. PowerShell, 11 of those. And then you've got the solution ops right here: Salesforce, ServiceNow, SmartStreet, Telegram. There's a Jack Henry up there I saw. So if you have those applications, those could be a big help in getting the automation built. As I said, some of those are purchased. So I would suggest a simple bot to work with, something like an Excel, or maybe you want to try something on your own email. You could use an Outlook or a Gmail and try your own. You could certainly grab the one I used for Gmail, try that out and set it up and build your own little sequence and tell us what you've built. We'd like to hear about it. I'm going to give you about 30 minutes to complete that task. All right. As I mentioned earlier, if anyone would like to share what they've done, what they've built, you can message it. I can give you the opportunity to unmute. Guess if you message me, I can unmute you or ask you to unmute. You may just try it on your own. Maybe you can there. Anyone? Yeah, raise your hand, right? Or if there's questions, anything that you ran into that was held you up. Okay, so I did have this last area to show you. Obviously, every company has their support space, but they have a pretty good knowledge base and forums area. obviously, and also I should say, once you get registered and logged in, then they have a really not, good ticketing system and management for cases, and also, a location to download your functionality, directly in your account, which is kind of nice. Obviously, see them first would be kind of that first level support for you, but we can always bring in help systems as needed. Okay, if there's no questions, let me double check. Anyone has anything? Nothing in the chat. Okay, we're going to wrap up at this point. As I said earlier, the VMs will be available for the next week, so you can feel free to get back on there. You can email me. In fact, let me go here. Got my final slide. You can contact me directly here. You can look at our intelligent automation section, or of course go to Help Systems site. But be glad to answer your questions and help you with thinking about how to use RPA in your organization. Thank you, everyone. Great day. Bye-bye.